What's up, guys? Barry Game here, back with some more Idle Heroes, and today, well, we're going to be going over Lord of Fear Aspen because a lot of you guys enjoyed the Therapist of Blood Betty build that we showed off yesterday. Today we're going to do Lord of Fear Aspen, and we're probably going to hit some of the most popular heroes in the game. One thing I did notice I kind of missed out on, but I answered in some of the comments, was talking about the sublimations of the hero. We'll make sure we do talk about it here because, well, Lord of Fear Aspen is the hero that every single Idle Heroes account should have, starting at like their second hero. Now there are some obvious things that you can do, like you can go for a Doom Terminator Vulcan account, you can go for a Betty account, but let's be honest, the best and most straightforward route that everybody does in the meta is Lord of Fear Aspen. So we're going to be talking about the hero, talking about why he's good, what makes him so good, and what priorities you should kind of be doing with specific setups. Hopefully you guys enjoy this one. Let's jump right into it. So as you all know, going for a Lord of Fear Aspen is just the best option out of all the heroes in Idle Heroes right now, and there's a few reasons why. Main part is his active skill, Soul Shiver, is one of the most damaging abilities in the entire game when it comes to facing off against bosses. It has insane single target damage for Void Invasion bosses, Star Expedition, heck, even things like Broken Spaces and Void Arc and things like that. He also has probably one of the best soft control abilities in the game with his Fear Abyssal Gaze. Basically says heroes inflicted with Abyssal Gaze are unable to launch their basic attacks and crit. So even if they do get an active skill off, not going to crit, which makes you take a lot less damage. So yeah, absolutely amazing. The Demon King's Might is what makes him absolutely godly against bosses because he does 120% more damage against them and steals 30% of their attack. And as you guys know, this is just a stacking steal, which is just hard to beat. Is why even heroes like Lord of Sparkles, Yorm Tum cannot compete with him when we're talking about long battles, because he just keeps stealing more and more attack and he just gets completely out of control. Now that's not the most important part of him, but even Lord of Fear Aspen, his basic attack can also hit the entire back row with a chance to fear them as well. Anytime an enemy dies, it increases his critical damage and 100% chance to inflict Abyssal Fear on all enemies. So again, more soft CC. And then what really makes it cool is yeah, if you do get his last ability here, Sublimed, basically yeah, you just they lose their energy. They can lose up to 50 energy if they're feared at the end of a round, which is just really cool. And then of course an additional chance to get another 50% off. So he's just so strong and absolutely amazing. He is going to be your main homeowner, and of course if you're really trying to play him optimally, you are going to want to look at your tenants like this. Now of course in the early game you can go for a Drake instead, but he is an assassin and assassins are worse tenants than warriors. And then over here on Kiramaro is better than priest, warriors better than priest and assassin. And then of course you're going to want to build the queen, you're going to want to build the Phantom Defier Lana, even though Asmodel would be stats wise the better tenant, because of course priest versus warrior, Phantom Defier Lane is just such a good support hero. You are going to want to build her. So let's run down the list here. As far as stones go for this hero, essentially you are probably going to want to go with something like a crit attack one very early on when you don't have a ton of crit damage and crit coming from other locations. This can be very strong. Later on, running either a skill damage precision or a skill damage holy damage stone is the more optimal route, because of course you don't want to get to like 100% crit chance. You want to be somewhere in like the 50 to 75% crit chance range. That way when you're doing certain game modes where Balanced Strike comes into play, if one portion of your Balanced Strike hit doesn't crit, the entire stack of damage gets the bonus 30% damage, which is just really weird to talk about, but it's pretty cool. Again, precision, you want to try to get as close to 150% as possible. Why is that? 150% is the cap of precision that converts also to attack. So you get, I think it's 30% of all your precision converted over to bonus attack. So if you at 150, that gives, what is that? Does that give 30, right? So every 10 you get 3. It's more than that. You get more than 30% attack. I'm not gonna do the math on the fly. It's always horrible. But yeah, focusing on a couple other things down the road is nice as well, like armor break. If you're going up against bosses, getting your crit damage as close to 150% is really good. And then of course, additional holy damage is nice because as you guys see in our video, like earlier today, if you didn't check out our E plus 17 damage video, he hits a lot of times with his abilities. So a ton of holy damage will be absolutely amazing. As far as artifacts go, he has a ton of options that you need to have for different game modes. If you're going for long combats, boss battles, Antlers Cane is going to be the way to go. If you're doing something more like, Void Campaign or something like that, and you're trying to win in the first couple rounds, Melodic Strings is the way to go. If you're going for tanky, Golden Crown is the way to go. He's one that I've never really run Gilded Purple Fan on. I wouldn't say it's bad for him. I just feel like if I'm going tanky, Golden Crown just kind of suffices better. The rare occasion you go for a Rui Scepter is for things like Aspen Dungeon, or if for some reason you're using him as a support hero and you want to really maximize his speed, if he does get a basic attack off in round 1, he can CC the entire back row of the enemy lineup, and that can mean a lot of survivability for your squad as well. Occasionally, Augustus Magic Ball is okay, but I would not count that as something he uses. And we haven't really had enough history to test him using Auspicious Lucky Cat as well. But it could be good because it does stack up to 90% all damage. And then beyond that, get some damage reduction as well. So it's kind of a game you have to play to see, because this can go up to 90% all damage dealt. Whereas this can go up to what? I'm not doing math right now. It's like 135 or something like that percent at the last round. Somewhere in that ballpark, that is what you want to run for artifacts. Now, of course, for hero enabling, you're going to pretty much run him red a lot of the time against bosses, with occasionally needing to go for Control Purify. And then, of course, in most other game modes, you are going to be running him with Unbending Will. You're going to want to always keep Lethal Fight back on, because most of the game modes, the enemies do have higher HP than yourself, so you will deal 12% additional of all damages. Very, very important. Now, when it comes to his Void Imprinting, this is pretty unique, as you kind of have some flexibility on what you need. If, of course, you need to go for something more traditional, like potentially like Void Campaign or something, going for all damage reduction is just really important, or damage reduction. Typically, I run crit and crit damage on him as soon as I don't need to run. If I can click the crit attack stone, you can technically run the crit attack stone and the crit and crit damage imprints very early on, because that'll help you kind of get to a very high crit chance and a very high crit damage percentage while also running damage reduction. I personally like running him with armor break, so long as my precision is up there. If my precision's over 100%, I typically try to go for that 100% armor break if possible. If you can't get to 100% armor break, I would say go for the precision node, because the precision node is very, very strong. 60% when you actually activate it here is huge, where 60% armor break, while big, might not be enough to completely get past all the defenses of the enemy. So there is a lot of flexibility here. You could, of course, run, if you prefer, skill damage or holy damage, but it really depends on how much you have in other places. Getting to the armor break cap and the precision cap and the crit damage cap, pretty important, whereas the crit chance isn't as important, because you might get some from other places like Treasure Train and stuff. It really depends on, are you investing in Treasure Train? Are you not? If you're not going in Treasure Train, this is kind of the way to go. Moving on to sublimations here. So number 1, I believe, should be going for your active skill here. This should be the priority for any Lord of Fear Aspen player. Go for full sublimations right here, because of course it has additional chances to fear. It boosts it up. The trigger condition for the additional damage here and everything is 60% less instead of, I believe it's what, 80%? Or no, 40%. Yeah, 40%. It ups it to 60% that you're going to do more damage against enemies. And of course, increases crit by 10%. That is absolutely amazing. After that, I believe going for this node is a lot of the times good. It really depends. You can kind of go for the 4th or the 3rd node here. It depends on what you're really looking for. Ultimately, I think most people go for this one here, because it talks more about the fear effects. At the end of the round, has a chance to, reduce their energy and such. But at the same time, this one here is pretty good because it reduces crit chance, increases self crit chance. It makes sure you're going to hit really hard. And this is why a lot of the time you don't want to go crazy high on crit chance on your Lord of Fear Aspen, because if you get a lot of these 10% crits added up, you get close to 100%. None of your attack doesn't crit, and then Balance Strike doesn't hit for as much as you want. But the nice part about this is whenever an enemy dies, increases self crit damage and 100% chance to fear the enemies. The last one usually that I see people go for is the basic attack, mainly because it just doesn't do as much. But again, here's another spot: additional self crit rate. If you are using basic attack in combat, it does help you guys out because it gives you 24% over 4 rounds. If you do 2 basics in a row, you're probably going to be critting with the next active skill. Its core version is a decent one. It's good to use against waves that you fight potentially in like Void campaign that really care about crowd control, because Devil Armor is amazing. Every layer of Devil Armor increases control immunity by 15% for 3 rounds. It does decrease by 5% every few rounds, but getting your whole team with an additional 15% at the beginning of battle, not too bad. And then whenever allies release basic or active skills against feared enemies, Lord of Fear Aspen will launch an additional attack and stuff. So really, really strong. And then when you get to his Destiny transition, it's even better, because basically every 2 actives he uses, he's going to be doing an additional hit for 2,000 or up to 3,000 or 3,000 additional damage across 2 hits, with a chance to do more Fear Abyssal Gaze and of course reduce attack more. He has a bunch of really good damaging nodes that you want to go for here. Reducing the attack of enemies is nice. Doing 800% of damage to all enemies, usually pretty good. This one, oh, I actually didn't put this on. That was foolish of me. I should have put this one on for the Void, the Star Expedition boss. You got to pick which one's the best out of the when you have multiple damaging ones. And then of course all damage dealt is absolutely amazing. I do make him the priority of leveling him up first, and then along with him I want to try to power up our Scarlet Queen Halora and our Phantom Defier Elena as fast as possible, because their additional stats are going to roll right into your Lord of Fear Aspen. As far as Awakening tier, if you have a B+, go for things like, you know, precision, potentially crit chance or crit damage, whatever stats that are offensive enough that are filling in these roles. That's the nice thing. Between this copy, your stone, and your imprints, you try to kind of like optimize your precision and your crit damage and your armor break as well as possible. One little thing I forgot to talk about is the skins for Lord of Fear Aspen. He does have 2 of them: the Christmas Limited Evil Santa Krampus, and of course the Ace skin, which is a little harder to get, Commander Aspen. So Commander Aspen is a better overall skin, giving damage reduction, attack, and HP. However, if you're going for bosses, you're gonna want to go for Lord of Fear Aspen because it gives you that additional crit damage. You don't really care as much about damage reduction. You don't really care as much about survivability. You're all about the attack, and they both give 9% attack. So yes, attack is the same. It's just getting that extra crit damage does give you a little flexibility with those other nodes. These are kind of the stats you want to go near to. So if you have any other questions, definitely hit me up. He is most definitely the first core of origin you want to build on your account, because that is going to unlock the Destiny transition tree. That's just going to give you even more power. So even if it's not the best core of origin, still one of the most important to have on your entire account. Hopefully you guys enjoy this one. I'll see you guys next time.